Namaste viewers, welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA. I am Vibhuti Jha with you today. A historic day in India. All the exit polls are indicating that Prime Minister-led NDA will bag the third term. It's a hat trick, and that's a really good news. India needed it. This continuation of Modi rule in India for reform, transformation, change, and to use the Hindi word kaya kalp, to change the configuration of India the way it has been so far. To talk about this, we have great pleasure in welcoming our dear friend PVR Narasimha Rao ji, who is also known as Garu. We will call him G as it is. So Narasimha Rao ji, welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA for this conversation today.
Namaste Vibhuti ji, and namaste to all of your viewers.
Thank you. And congratulations to India for, as of now, as the exit polls say, Prime Minister is winning. Seat adjustments are anywhere 350 plus for the entire NDA, which is great news. I am a believer in sports analogy. So long as I win the trophy, I deny the opposition, my opponent, the hand on the trophy. So that seems to be happening. And this particular election is also very critical for astrologers, because apart from Narasimha Rao ji giving his forecast, a few weeks ago, which had knocked up about 385,000 views on Jaipur Dialogue. So that's very, very impressive. The involvement of people was so heartwarming. So Garu, your call now. Now that BJP seems to be winning, the BJP-led NDA winning the elections, how are you feeling as an astrologer? As your
I'm happy. Actually, before I did interview with you long back, I think in 2016 or so, I did a video with Saptashi's astrologist where I said that Modi will win 3 elections, 2019 and 2024. He will be a 3-term prime minister. So that was a prediction I made in the very first term. And in my video with you, my expectation was somewhere between 330 to 340. I expected BJP, just based on Modi ji's horoscope, between 280 and 290, and plus another 50 for the alliance partners. So 330 to 340. And looking at the exit poll results, of course, we have to basically put the caveat that these are just exit polls. The actual results will be 3 days from now on June 4th. But the thing is, in the past, when the exit polls are all over the place, like Karnataka in 2023, things can be tough. But when all the exit polls are in a particular range, you can basically be assured that, because if you look at all the exit polls that are out today, I think Dainik Bhaskar is the only one that has the lower end for NDA as 280 plus something. But most other exit polls have in the 340, 350 range. So my range is 330 to 340. So it looks like it is actually going to be above that. And as I mentioned in my video, that is what I expect based on astrology. But the thing is, your own karmas, your own remedies that you do, your own pujas, etc. And it's not just the pujas, the service you do to the society. They all basically modify your karma. And in my subjective assessment, as I said in a video on my channel, after video with your channel, in my subjective assessment, the punya that Narendra Modi ji has done in this lifetime far outweighs the punya that Rahul Gandhi ji or other opposition leaders have done. That is just purely my subjective opinion. So the thing is, whatever I expected astrologically is basically the floor. Can be above that, but it's unlikely to be below that. So I was highly confident that BJP will win and Modi ji will come back to power, and also with comfortable majority. Whether it's 330 to 340 as I expected, or it's 350, 360, is basically it means you can rule comfortably. But the thing is, because if you don't have 400 plus, certain changes that you want to bring in India may be difficult to make. But the thing is, I'm pretty confident that time will come in future cycles when you will breach that mark also. But the thing is, I think this itself is an achievement, especially when the world is so unstable. There is so much chaos in the world, financially, politically, in terms of various factors. There are wars going on and the wars raging in the world, and economists are predicting recession, depression, etc. So, against all these headwinds, to win third term, basically because there'll be some fatigue in the among the people when somebody has been ruling them for 10 years. So to overcome all those factors and to have a comfortable majority itself is convincing. So people who were hoping for 400 may be disappointed, but in my opinion, this is a great victory for. I mean, if it happens as the exit polls indicate, this is great for BJP and great for India.
I totally agree with your very brilliant assessment and opening statement. You are very correct because this is a historic achievement. It has happened only once in India when Nehru did that. So this is a
Mhm.
pretty heroic win.
And that
And
doesn't really count because there was no opposition then. So that doesn't really count.
exactly,
This is really the first
exactly,
time with a valid opposition, somebody coming to power 3 times in a row.
very, very correct, very astutely said. And you are right. This is the headwinds that are going on around the world. Today, we know that the toolkit operators against India were very active, and they're using the technology. We know now that how an Israeli technology AI company was trying to influence and change the dynamics of viewers and which messages they promote. So there was a significant attack that Modi loses. And I had said this in 2020 on this show that the opposition, the left, the Marxists, the Islamists, aided by the George Soros type billionaires, would do whatever it takes to destabilize Modi. And it is a great gratification for me, a great happiness for me that it is not happening. So thank you, people of India, for exercising your wisdom to elect a man who has been here. Now, we will not go into the details of varieties of exit polls, but as you very correctly said, the averages look like that NDA will cross 350. You made a very interesting point. To bring about certain significant changes, you need a solid majority. But let's not forget one very important element that despite much less seats than this, Modi also achieved significant legislative changes of CAA 370 abrogation, and he knew how to manage the coalition to bring about those specific changes about whom uh, Owaisi and Abdullah had said that in 100 years these can't happen. But Modi demonstrated it can be done. So going forward, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Believing in these exit polls that Prime Minister Modi will be in power again in a very short time on 4th, and 6th is the inaugural part of it. What changes you are looking at in your list of priorities that the Prime Minister must focus on, considering he had said that big changes will happen, big things will happen in the third term? Where do you see that?
First, I want to go back to what you said regarding the repealing of Article 370. That was a great accomplishment they did with the majority that they currently have, and looks like they will have a better majority going forward. But I want to make another interesting point here. See, the opposition is really at the end of the rope now. In other words, Rahul Gandhi's leadership has been proven to be incompetent over 2 decades now. He's been basically projected as the next prime minister for almost 2 decades. So the thing is, one thing I expect based on Rahul Gandhi's horoscope is that finally they may give up on him in the coming 5 years. It's very likely that they will give up on Rahul Gandhi and try to move on to the next leader within the party. And usually, when such transitions happen, it's not smooth. In other words, somebody may prefer Priyanka Gandhi, somebody may prefer some outsider. So there may be a tussle. So if you look at what happened after Jawaharlal Nehru with Congress split into multiple entities, a similar struggle is possible. And also various other opposition parties, opposition forces within India may be in a state of disarray because they've been out of power for too long, and you need to be in power you need money to basically keep going in politics. So it is possible that some of these parties, even if they get some seats now, they may be basically going away, they may be splitting. So it's possible that even though they may get only 340, 350, 360 kind of seats, NDA altogether, after the elections, it's possible that they will improve it over the time based on the changes in the opposition parties. So that can't be ruled out. So basically 400 plus is possible, though not on June 4th. Going forward is possible. But the bottom line is the next few years are very good for BJP, excellent for Modi ji, excellent for Amit Shah, and more importantly, they are excellent for India. When I take a step back, look at India's destiny over the last 1,000 years and the next 1,000 years, what I see is in astrology, there is a chart that I use which shows your destiny for around 1,200-year period. So that chart, which started a little before 1000 AD, around 900 AD or so, that chart that basically shows terrible suffering for India as a civilization. So India is basically towards the end of a terrible 1,200-year period, and the next 1,200-year period, which will start soon, is basically a glorious period. If you look at India's entire history over various millennia, several millennia, India has been a superpower. India has been a superpower not only culturally, religiously, but in various other metrics that you could use. So, economics, military might, various other metrics. It is just that around 900 AD or so, India started basically falling back, and other invading powers have overpowered Indian civilization. But the thing is, India is at the end of that 1,200-year period, and on the cusp of a 1,200-year period when India will be on the rise. So, and also within this 1,200-year period, because it's not a constant, there will be ups and downs. So within this 1,200-year period, India is an upward period. So in other words, India is basically recovering from a roughly millennium long decay, and is basically reclaiming his supremacy, reclaiming his heritage, reclaiming his leadership position in the world. So that is basically what we expect over the next century or so, in several decades. So overall, from a long-term perspective, there's no way India is going back now. India will keep rising. And the other thing is, when a country's time for decay or fall comes, people's collective consciousness will be perverted. They will choose bad leaders. They will choose leaders who are not in the best interest of the country's growth. On the other hand, when the collective consciousness of a country is poised for growth, when when the fruits of good karmas are playing out for a country, then the collective consciousness will make the right decisions. So that is why, irrespective of all these forces that you mentioned, all the external forces, see, look at any news coverage within India or outside of India, especially outside of India. When they talk about Modiji, they say far right leader Narendra Modi. What do you mean by far right? He's a center right leader. If you look at the right wing and left wing, how they function in US and various other countries, you see that Narendra Modi is a centrist leader and slightly far in terms of economic policies. In various other aspects, he's not really far right like in some other countries. It's just a fake word that they came up with. They just label him, and they basically create doubt, skepticism. People who are not familiar with him, familiar with his policies, familiar with his accomplishments, there is a certain stereotype that comes into their mind. And that's basically being propagated by the media. So, in spite of all this, Indian people were smart enough to know who is good for them, who's good for the civilization, the collective civilization that the country represents. So that is because India is on an upward journey. And also looking at the short term, not the long term 1,000-year, 100-year period, looking at the current time, 2020 till 2036 is a very chaotic time for the world. It is the kind of time that comes once in a millennium when the geopolitical order can completely change. This is a major transformational time for the world. It started, and I'm not saying it now. I've been saying it since 2007. So in 2020 we had COVID, and after that we had all these economic struggles and things are there's no equilibrium yet. world is still struggling to find the right equilibrium between, for example, supply and demand chains, etc. Economies are still struggling to find the right equilibrium, and there's a lot of political upheaval. And as the economic tensions mount towards the middle of this decade, 2025, 26, 27 time period, there'll be more socio-cultural and political unrest also. So what we are looking at is basically the beginning phase of a really turbulent period for humanity, for Earth. So the next 5 years are really key period for the world. And also, this is the time when India will keep asserting itself, and without basically burning old bridges, build new bridges. And India will be the bridge between various parts of the world, the third world and the advanced world, or the west and the east, or the global south and the US, etc. So in terms of various divisions that exist in the world, geopolitically, militarily, economically, India will position itself as the natural bridge. This is culturally, economically, militarily, in various aspects. So these 5 years are a really critical period for world and India. And as you can see in the last 5 years, India's role in the world has been growing. India's proximity to US. See, US has an interesting dynamic with India. On one hand, there are forces like Soros who are actually close to Biden, who are actually behind Biden. So Biden is the Democratic establishment is ruling US, and some of their funders and some of the deep state agencies are trying to destabilize Modi, trying to basically destabilize India. But at the same time, officially, if you look at Blinken and Jai Kishan chemistry, the, there is increased military cooperation between India and US. And my expectation is Quad, the which started as an economic cooperation but also grow into military cooperation, and I think it will grow more into military cooperation between Japan, Australia, India and US, right? So the Quad will become more and more important, just like NATO. Quad will become a very significant entity during these 5 years, because the tensions between China and US will rise over the next 5 years. It doesn't matter whether Trump comes back or Biden comes back, or neither but somebody else that we don't even know at this point of time becomes the next US president. It doesn't matter, because all this basically who is ruling the country is secondary. There are certain forces that rule the country really, and these are all just on the surface. These are just the faces, whether it's Trump or Biden. So those forces, they will try to destabilize India and basically make sure that they can install a puppet there, but they realize that it's not possible. And now they will know on June 4th that they can't. They have to deal with Modi ji. So they will deal with Modi ji. So the thing is, the cooperation that really increased in the last 5 years, it will increase further over the next 5 years. And also the forces that are trying to destabilize India will give up. They will take a step back for a while because they know that they lost. They won't get a chance for the next 5 years. So they will take a step back and they will cooperate further with the Indian establishment. So the externally, I see India's role increasing in the world, India asserting itself. At the same time, don't expect that US will support everything India does. US will criticize India. For example, suppose India goes and takes over Pakistan occupied Kashmir, reclaims Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Suppose, just like Russia and Israel have been aggressive, suppose in these 5 years, India does that. US will make noises, but the thing is, everybody has to cater to their domestic audience and their funders, etc. So they will do that, but the thing is, that will not be significant. That will be just a superficial thing. That will be only on the surface. Under the hood, in the end, US will come around. US will support India. So the thing is, India has to figure out what exactly it wants to do, and I expect Modi ji to be very aggressive in the coming 5 years, both externally and internally. And in terms of the agenda, you specifically asked what is the kind of agenda that they will follow. My expectation is, one thing is, Pakistan is historically weak. If you look at Pakistan government and Pakistan's economic situation, they are in deep disarray. And this is really the right time to weaken Pakistan further and isolate Pakistan internationally, and then some of the unfinished business with Pakistan. This is the right time to take care of it the next couple of years. So it would have been bad to do it before the elections because it will look like you're doing it for electoral victory. They didn't need it to win the election. But the thing is, now that the election is behind them, so this is the next year or two are a fantastic time to take care of unfinished business with Pakistan, if you know what I mean. And and the thing is, China, they have their own headaches. First of all, the war that's going on in Ukraine is not really Russia's war. It started as Russia's war, but it's now a proxy war between NATO and China. So China basically has China's resources, money will be somewhat directed towards that. Basically, the China, Russia, and Iran axis, and eventually North Korea may also join them. So that will be busy with the Ukraine war, and there will be increased tensions in the Southeast Asia region. In the Taiwan region, there will be increased tensions and standoff between no war, but basically a lot of tensions with US. Basically, all these show off force and show off intent of your aggression, so that you want the other side to back off. So those things will happen in the next few years in the Southeast Asia region. So China will be busy. China will be more occupied with all those things to care about Pakistan. So China will kind of dump Pakistan. And moreover, in these 5 years, I expect that China will also see some problems from the Islamic terrorism. In the If you look at China, the southwestern portion of China has some Uyghur population, some Muslim population, where there is persecution of the Uyghurs and there is some unrest there. And I'm afraid some forces from Pakistan and Afghanistan region, and they will basically try to intervene there and try to support their Muslim brothers. And there may be some increased violence and aggression coming from that area affecting China over these 5 years. So China has enough headaches of their own. Moreover, I expect Chinese economy to be really struggling over these 5 years. China will the troubles that started in the last couple of years, they will slowly peak. So there will be some unrest on that account within China also. So China has enough headaches to worry about India and Pakistan. So this is the perfect this term is the perfect time, probably the beginning of the term, the first half of the term is the perfect time to take care of unfinished business with Pakistan. That's one thing. The other thing is economy. See, in the end, it's all about money. If you have money and if you have military might, that is when you win. That is, see, India was a military superpower and economic superpower in before 1000 AD. But the reason they fell is because they fell behind in military technology. So India has to spend enough money on military technology. And I'm not talking about just things like submarines, missiles, etc. I'm talking about cyber warfare, because the next war that is coming towards the end of this decade or early next decade is going to have a lot of cyber elements in it. So increasing the cyber capabilities and increasing capabilities in artificial intelligence, and then robotics, things like robotics, having robo soldiers, stuff like that. Basically, these are areas which will decide the winner of the next world war. Just like gunpowder, when it came, decided who would control the world for a few centuries. Like that, cyber technology is the main thing in the next computer technology. And India has a lot of capability, but the thing is, no no tangible progress in those areas. So India has to make some progress and have a partnership, tie up with US and use US for that. But the thing is, not be the junior partner. Start as a junior partner, but basically have a clear timeline when they will transition into independence. Basically, so targeting independent development, but starting as a junior partner to US. India should increase their military capabilities, in my opinion. That is the number one priority, military, because whether we like it or not, a major war is coming. All these isolated things that we see now, like Ukraine war, Israel Palestine war in Gaza, what's happening in Rafah now. Of course, even if there is a temporary peace deal, I don't think it will last. Basically, in the end, Middle East will be burning till 2030. So all these fronts and eventually the Taiwan front, they will all converge. there'll be a major confrontation which will decide who will be considered numero uno going forward in the next century. So military investment is really a major thing India should consider. And the other thing is economic might. So increase their economic influence and trade. And the other thing is internally, health and education are very important. You want people to be healthy and you want people to be educated, because that is when people will be smart and they will vote well in future elections. So more investment into education and healthcare, but not just the status quo. See, the way we do education and healthcare in India or across the world now is based on the European model from the last few centuries. And this is not necessarily the best model. So India has a lot of value they can add there. There is a lot of ancient wisdom and also a lot of modern understanding. So they can combine, they can basically take advantage of the ancient wisdom. So India can be the leader in education that is basically more valuable, not just uh, a dumb construct. Because a lot of times what people learn in college is different from what they do for living. Whereas in old India, they were all tied together. So coming up with a better education system where it actually creates better individuals who are more productive in the society and who basically play an important role in the society around them. So that education reform, healthcare reform, those are important. And of course, because BJP represents the Hindu awakening, there some changes relating to the control of temples, etc., could also be done in the next 5 years. For example, if you look at temples, a lot of temples are under government control, and you take money from the temples, and temples don't have autonomy. But the thing is, other religious institutions which are getting money from the government have autonomy. So this is a very uneven system, and it is very anti-Hindu system. The reason is we are using a lot of laws that were made at the time of Mughals and at the time of British, when suppressing and oppressing Hindus and basically considering Islam or Christianity as superior was basically accepted. It was not. It was the norm. There was nothing wrong in their minds about it. The people who created these laws, we are blindly using those, and in some cases, we even strengthen them in the
Right.
Congress party government time period. So it is. I think the time is right for making changes in some of those areas. But really, I'm very confident that those things will happen, whether in this 5 year period or the next 5 year period. Liberation of Hindus, oppress in Hindu. When I say liberation of Hindus, people may think it is kind of dumb to talk about it, but in a way, it is true, because Hindus have been oppressed for 1,000 years. People look at Hindus as people look at Hindu nationalism kind of like Christian nationalism or white nationalism. But the difference is those represent the movements of the oppressors, whereas Hindu nationalism represents the movement of the oppressed. So in a way, it is more like Black Lives Matter movement, in my opinion. The Hindu awakening and the Hindu nationalism that we see in India is more like because Hindus are more like the Native Americans and blacks of USA. Just like they were enslaved or they were basically eradicated and converted, Hindus were converted. Hindus were oppressed in their own land for a millennium. So, but the thing is, I'm very confident that that is ending soon. So, whether it happens in this 5 year period or the next 5 year period doesn't matter. That is important, but more important are healthcare and education reform. But more importantly, increasing the military might and cyber capabilities is a must. And India should leverage. US need to cooperate with India because to use as a counterweight for China. That should be used as a leverage by India to basically get an in on some of the ideas that are being developed in US, but with a clear eye to become independent.
That's such a wonderful, positive statements that you have made, and you touched upon some very vital elements: was education, medical, the leadership. Prime Minister
Yeah,
would be going for G7 meeting to Italy as a special invitee, and I think
right.
he will receive a rousing reception there because,
Yes.
as you rightly said, Prime Minister Modi has established what I call the Indian varchasva, the Indian superiority or the existence of the Indian thought process very well globally. So much so
Yes.
that there was some American commentator who made a mention that Modi has friends all over the world. His opposition is from within the
In
local
India,
economy.
with India, which is correct.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so my second other inquiry would be that healthcare and education. How do you see the judicial reforms? And I'm linking this matter with reference
Mhm.
to what has happened in the US, that a state lower court has disqualified Trump. Has convicted Trump. He's become a convicted felon now.
Yeah, it hasn't disqualified, it just convicted him. It's not
Convicted.
disqualification.
No,
Yeah,
not
he can
disqualified.
still run for
Convicted.
president.
So the
Yeah.
question arises here is that this particular thing will be overturned in appeal, but a damage is done. So when the system, the toolkit operators, the India haters, will they use the judiciary as the last resort? I have always believed that the opposition to Modi and Hindus and India need not necessarily in that order, is
Mhm.
driven by people who see and they are scared, frightened of India's rise, because our philosophy is
Yeah.
actually very inclusive. Our
Right.
philosophy actually, as you rightly said, it fights for the oppressed. So taking the about 900 years ago, you said that India had a very bad karma. Three Islamic republics were created breaking India:
Mhm.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. A lot of talk is there in Hindus that Akhanda Bharat. Do you see that as a politically wise move now in these circumstances? Or India must be consolidating what it has and rise from this kind of an phoenix? Your thoughts?
Yeah, in my assessment, this is not the right time to do anything about Akhand Bharat, because those kind of changes, because people in those countries have a notion that we are a country called Bangladesh, or we are a country called Pakistan. So the thing is, or we are a country called Afghanistan. And to change those, you need major geopolitical changes. So if that is possible post 2030, basically when a major war happens, countries break and countries combine, new borders are created. But the thing is, the current borders are clearly etched in the minds of people. So you can't really forcefully change it at this point of time. So it will be unwise to do anything about Akhand Bharat. But the thing is, we don't have to be one country politically. We can have there is some collective consciousness in the region that is considered Akhand Bharat. I mean, not only these countries that you mentioned, but if you go to Burma, you go to Malaysia, Singapore, all these were basically the thought process and the civilization was unified in all these regions in the past. So the thing is, what we should do is, instead of taking over them, that is the Western mindset, that is the British mindset, European mindset. Instead of taking over them and controlling them politically, you should basically help them. You should basically uh, your thought process and the thought process that was there also initially, basically revive the ancient thinking, revive the Hindu civilization, and revive Hinduism in those portions. Especially see the countries that have become Islamic republic is difficult to revive Hinduism, but there are other countries like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia, etc., where there is some Hinduism. So all the other countries that have Hindu presence, revive Hinduism, revive Hindu thought. And the other thing is, the way I look at it, Hinduism has central concepts that actually existed across the world. You take various pagan traditions of Europe, Africa, Australia, they all, their tenets, the concepts of gods that they have, gods and goddesses, what they represent, and how closely they are tied with nature, and basically being a responsible, humble occupant of earth than somebody who's just mastering and destroying it. So all these concepts that existed in Hinduism existed everywhere. So if you make them the center of your worldview, that worldview has a better chance of finding acceptance across the world, because it is at the subconscious mind of all the people in various parts of the world. So the thing is, you need to basically look at civilizational ideas, worldview, and focus on those to unify people before you talk about unifying Akhand Bharat, etc. So Akhand Bharat is a bad idea, but the thing is, even after the current partition of India into India and Pakistan, some portions of India were taken over by Pakistan, like the Kashmir POK. So it is fair game to basically take over those. Because those are in a disarray anyway. The country itself is in a disarray, and those in those parts, people are not really well off. So even if there is some disturbance in the short term, it will actually make people there happy. Look at Kashmir. When Kashmir Article 370 was repealed, people said Kashmir, this is a disaster. But the thing is that area is flourishing now. There is business, there is tourism, and people are happier. So the thing is, one thing I will tell you, in most of the Akhand Bharat, the genes of people, the subconscious mind of people has some of the Sanatana Dharma ideas inbuilt. So you just need to appeal to those. So if you do that, eventually you can unify Akhand Bharat, but time is not right now. So right now, focus on what is in the core of Akhand Bharat, which is the current India. And then maybe look at POK. And one more thing, look at
Yeah,
POK and make sure that you don't lose further regions of India, like you
that's
lost
right.
Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc. Because there are some area, in the southwest and in the east, there are a couple of states where anti-Hindu forces have been strong, and also not only anti-Hindu, but they have been anti-national in a way for a while now.
Right.
So basically, make sure that the adharmic forces that are ruling those countries, basically they can be curtailed. So I believe that BJP after these elections win. By the way, in West Bengal, I think that BJP will make good inroads in this
Yes.
cycle. In this election, BJP will get good results. So that will weaken Mamata Banerjee. So put pressure on Mamata Banerjee, and basically it is possible that before 2025 election, 2026 election, right? Yeah,
Yes. Right.
2026 election, she can be dethroned. But if not, make sure that she is not coming back in 2026, because her good time is over. So they will really put focus on West Bengal, and they've been very passive. If you look at the last few years, they've been very passive in their opposition to Mamata Banerjee. So they have to take her on, because otherwise there is a danger that we'll lose that part of India. So that is one part, and the other part is Kerala. In Kerala, looks like BJP will get some seats finally, but the thing is, BJP is a non-force there. It is between
Right.
communists and Congress. So try to grow BJP. Find some good leader like Annamalai in Tamil Nadu to lead BJP and grow BJP there. And because Kerala has been a center of our Hindu dharma, Sanatana dharma for a long time. That is
Right.
that is the part of India that gave us Adi Shankara, the Vedanta. So again, the subconscious minds of people and the genes of people do have Sanatan Dharmic concepts inscribed in them. So we just need to trigger them. So find a good leader, focus. Modi ji has to go there, spend more time, and win the minds of the people. So they should really put focus on winning Kerala and West Bengal over the next few years. So don't lose those parts, and then perhaps take back some parts that you lost, like the POK, and then focus on the development in what we have currently, and then try to take civilization leadership role across the world, especially Akhand Bharat region.
Thank you so much. You alluded to, you very openly talked about the collective consciousness and the element of the what we have, the country that we have. Let's protect and defend what we have.
Yeah.
The one key issue that comes to my mind is,
Mhm.
you know, the opposition. You said earlier on that they need money. What has happened is that Prime Minister Modi's non-corrupt rule has been really devastating for the opposition guys. Their sources of income have dried up.
Yeah.
And in this third term,
Right.
it will evaporate. And that's where Prime Minister was alluding to earlier on, that you will see a lot of changes
Yeah.
in the family run enterprises, so to say. I call them family limited partnerships. So the point here I wanted to ask you is, do you foresee, because I'm foreseeing that the desperateness of the Upper Indie alliance is very vivid and very clear. And when somebody becomes so desperate, they resort to extreme actions. Do you foresee, no, I won't say foresee, do you think, in your analysis of things, that these opposition forces will resort to ugly violence of the kind, not my prime minister, EVM was hacked, and they will, using the Western media, try to discredit the victory of Prime Minister Modi led alliance.
See, they can do that to some extent. But the thing is, see, if the election is close, you can do something like what Trump did on January 6th. But the thing is, if the election is not close, if you lost fair and square, if you lost by a huge margin, there's not much you can do. So they can try. See, foreign media will talk about how far right Modi has basically iron grip over various institutions and using institutions like the ED, etc., to pressurize his opponents, etc. There will be all those narratives. But the thing is, they don't matter. They matter only to the intelligentsia like you and me who read it and get upset about it. Most people don't give a damn. They don't read all that nonsense. So the thing is, they will do some things, but they will be just superficial. They will not really mean anything. And as far as the desperate measures are concerned, they have been doing it for the last couple of years. And what I see in the coming 5 years is now desperation will basically, there's nothing more they can do. So that is why I see that some of these parties are going to break up. And to be fair, one thing I want to say, uh, Modi ji, Amit Shah ji, Dowal ji, there are a few people in BJP who are very genuine and sincere. Within the BJP fold and within the allies, there are many corrupt people. And they do basically, they do take money and they make money. But the thing is, the focus is on, you may be corrupt, but the thing is, get things done. Don't just take money and just pocket it and do nothing. So show some progress, but basically you make some profits. So that's the model. And there are various BJP and BJP alliance leaders, NDA leaders who are doing that right now. And these guys who are in Congress and other parties, they will want to come into the NDA fold, BJP fold, and also be part of that new ecosystem. So basically, the old corruption was you just eat the money, do nothing. Now the new way is, yeah, you make some money, but it's reward for getting accomplishments, getting things done on the ground. So that basically, they will see that this party is doing things and the other party is stuck in the old ways and they're not coming up with any new vision for the country and not winning the minds of people. So I will not be surprised, or rather I actually expect over the next couple of years that Congress and other parties will break up, they will become weaker. So that is why I said, even though they may not get 400 plus off the bat on June 4th, they may end up with that eventually. So some of the major reforms that they want to do, they may have enough power to do that eventually.
My final question is related to two things. One is, yeah, in democracy, you need opposition. No one party rule can be. We know what has happened to India under a one party rule. Virtually, Congress party ruled the country, and they did crazy things, hurting Hindus around the country, any number of them. We know that. My question to you is, will the collective consciousness of those who are opposing BJP or Hindu forces, who are totally aligned with the communist and Congress ideology, anti-BJP, they are all Hindus. Do they not see what the Congress party did to the country's ethos? Despite knowing that, why are they still do indulge in bootlicking of a family limited partnership arrangement? Will there be a collective consciousness shift there? And the second part, and I want you to address both these questions, is sometimes I feel I don't have statistics for that, but there are a whole lot of people who left Hinduism, embraced Islam and Christianity. Don't they have a realization that they committed a mistake and they must return to the original fold? What about that?
Yeah, great questions. Now,
Thank you.
as far as having a strong opposition party for the health of a democracy is concerned, I want to say something that may sound really silly or controversial to people. But the thing is, democracy by itself, in the long term, is a good ideal. But in the short term, it's an overrated goal. The thing is, it's not what matters is not whether you have democracy or autocracy. What matters is whether you have a leader who's selfless and who's basically doing the right thing for his country, for his people. That is what matters. If you have somebody like Vikramaditya, who has no opposition, he's ruling entire India for, let's say, several decades, and he's doing good to the country. There's no harm in it. On the other hand, if you have somebody who's basically elected by a majority and there's a strong somebody who's elected by 55% people and 45% people hate him, and he's basically very selfish and doing bad things to the country, but which may benefit 55% of people who supported him, is it really good for the country? Is questionable. So the thing is, we always see our rational minds, because currently world is controlled by the rational mind. Rational mind wants structures, clearly defined formulas, structures, etc. So we underplay the emotional mind, intuitive mind, or the unstructured thinking, basically the mind that thinks in terms of unstructured process. So both are important, both have a role to play. So when the world is dominated by the structured thinking and logical mind, all these ideas like the current judiciary system, current education system, current political system come into play. But really what matters is you whether the leader is not elected but is there for, let's say, 20 years, or he's elected every 5 years, is secondary. What is important is the leader should be a good leader, he should be dharmic, and he should do good to his country, and he should be selfless. It's not about himself but serving others. He doesn't see it as an entitlement, his own entitlement, but as a service that he's doing to the people that he serves, he represents. So that is more important. And of course democracy in the long term is a good ideal, because it's likely in autocracy that you won't end up with such a good leader. So if so, you want the opportunity to replace that leader with another leader. So I am not against democracy, but what I am saying is, if there is no strong opposition, if basically BJP or Modi is strong and controlling India for, let's say, a decade or decade and a half, I don't see a problem with it, as long as India is progressing. India is reclaiming its position in the world. And see, there will be always people suffering and people doing good. But the thing is, overall, if the tide is being lifted up, if more people are doing well, are doing better than they were doing before, and less people are suffering, you can't completely eliminate suffering. But if less people are suffering, that's basically what you need. So the thing is, I'm afraid for the next decade or so, the right wing of India, BJP, and there may be future incarnations, but currently is BJP. So that will dominate Indian politics. I don't see a strong opposition. As a matter of fact, I see the current opposition splitting and joining the BJP over the next 5 years. So, but the thing is, I don't see it as a negative. I see it as a positive. But what happens is, when people are pocketing some money but basically doing good to the society and improving the country, things are good. But eventually, there are bad people, there are selfish people. So people start doing a bad job, selfishness will come in. So eventually, when that happens, correction will take place. Because we have the democratic system and elections, people will basically go to the right leadership. So it is these things take time. These things don't happen in one election cycle. These kind of
Yes.
changes, they take multiple cycles. But the thing is, I think we are heading towards a phase where Indian politics is clearly dominated by one party, and the opposition realizes it, and portions of opposition merge with that party, and then the actual opposition becomes further weaker in the next 5 years. But the thing is, eventually after 2030, in 2030s, there'll be a realignment, and within what we consider as right wing now, there'll be further split, and there will be further parties, etc. That will happen after the war in 2030s. And as far as the what is your second question?
About the
Yeah,
people
so
who
people who
have
converted to other religions. So the thing is, see, most people, religion is secondary to their life. They don't really they don't really know. uh, it's not about God. See, religion is about realizing the God that is within you and outside of you, that is in the entire universe. And it is basically to overcome the cycle of life and death. But the thing is, and Hinduism has clear cut procedures, etc., for that. But the thing is, for most people, religion is just a matter of faith, so that you feel good about what you're doing, you think that you are a good person. And Other religions have enough paradigms to reinforce that sense in them. So the thing is, people are happy. People who converted, they're happy. But what I was saying earlier is, people who were Sanatan, who were practitioners of Sanatana Dharma a few generations back. In other words, their ancestors 5 generations back were Sanatana Dharmi. So those things will be in their genes physically and in their vasanas also, subconscious in non-physical terms, spiritual terms. So that can be rekindled at some point of time. But the thing is, India has been suffering materially for a long time now. India was a superpower, but India is suffering materially. So people don't care about whether they are worshipping a god named Allah or a god named Krishna or Shiva. As long as they're doing some prayer and they think that God will take care of me and I'm a good person. And they basically, the people around them think that they're a good person, because in the end, we are social animals. So if people around us are think that we are good persons, we are happy. We just want to make people around us happy. So that community may be a Christian community, Muslim community, Hindu community, or atheist community. As long as you think you are a good person, that is the purpose of religion for most people. It's not really about realizing God or becoming liberated. But the thing is, once you have enough money, once India prospers materially, then the next generation, when they have a lot of money and they have all the pleasures, they will wonder, what the hell is all this for? Who am I? What am I doing in this world? So when the people really start becoming spiritual, other religions do not have the depth and the breadth to answer all the questions that people may have. If you just need to comply to certain customs and then basically feel good about yourself and find acceptance from the people around you, other religions are sufficient. And that's what is happening across the world and even in India. But the thing is, I predict towards the end of this decade and early next decade, after we see major catastrophe, people will become more spiritual, and people will have enough money but still not happiness, and then people will wonder, what is the purpose of all this? Then Hinduism has Hinduism is the only solution. Hinduism has answers to all the questions. So I'm not worried about converting people back, etc., because it will happen automatically. I always say one thing. Right now, Christianity and Islam are big threats to Hinduism, but this is temporary. This is transient. Those religions are destined to become weaker over the next few decades. The real threat to all religions is from atheism, is from materialism and atheism. So there, Hinduism is the best poised religion to defeat rationalistic atheism, because Hinduism accommodates atheism and rationalism within
Yeah.
its umbrella. So I'm not worried about all that. Let's basically make sure that we are not basically foolishly allowing more people to leave Hinduism.
Right.
Educate people about Hinduism. Educate people about the contradictions in Hinduism are not a weakness. It is because Hinduism caters to so many different audiences with different levels of thinking. So we need to put things in perspective. And another thing in Hinduism is, people people basically have all these complicated rules. And see, for example, if somebody wants to do a ritual, there are people who say, oh, you don't have a regard to do it, you can't do it. So we have to get rid of this dumbness, which is basically poking ourselves in the eye, encouraging people to practice Hinduism, and make sure that various facets of Hinduism, we don't fight each other. Oh, you can only do this. You don't do homa. You only do japa, or you don't do japa. You only do prayer to an idol. Like that, basically, because loko bhinna ruchi, people have different aptitudes and tastes. There are infinite approaches. So we don't fight among these approaches and put things in balance. So we need to clarify some things in Hinduism among ourselves, so that it becomes accessible. See, that's the problem of Hinduism. Because it's so vast, people have inadvertently made it inaccessible over the last few centuries. So we need to make it accessible and make it put it out there. But one thing I'm confident is, Hinduism is not going anywhere. It survived the worst attacks. Now Hinduism is poised to answer all the questions of people over the next few decades. So I won't worry about it. As I said at the end of my last interview with you, the time right now is to focus on material things, material prosperity, because when you don't have it, you become a slave. you basically build wealth, build military capability, cyber capability, and reform education, health, etc. And you stand the chance of being a world leader. So when you do that, eventually, when you are a world leader, when you have so much clout over the world, your thinking, your worldview can slowly and subtly be reinforced across the world. So we need to, and before that, we need to be clear among ourselves on what our worldview is. What is our view of who are we? What is our place in the world? What is our responsibilities and what are our rights vis-a-vis the world. So we need to basically have clarity on all that, and then position ourselves to become the world leader. So that is really the need of the hour.
India will become a Vishwaguru. The
Yes.
issue is very simple, as you very rightly said. We have to propagate that message to
And
ourselves
simplified,
and
accessible and simplified message needs to be propagated.
propagated and shared with. One of the things that we talk about in my closing statement, I would say, religion plays a very vital role, as you said, of giving a satisfaction to us. Religion, as practiced today, is the cause of most of the global conflicts as we see it. Our philosophy is totally antithetical to those standard, structured, mandated strictures of other religions. We are the
Yeah.
authentic, liberal, free thought
Yeah.
process. And that's what we have to
Absolutely.
take
See,
forward.
the word liberal is used in a very negative connotation today, but the thing is, Hinduism is a liberal religion, and people use the word secular. Hinduism is an inherently secular religion. The thing
Exactly.
is, because we accommodate whether you worship Shiva, whether you worship Durga, whether you worship a fierce devata, whether you worship a Somme devata, whether you do this ritual or that ritual or no rituals, or you don't think about a personal god, but just the energy that is behind all this world.
Correct.
That's the we encompass all the thoughts. The thing is, in Kali Yuga, because there is overemphasis on simplification and clear cut rules to follow, etc., we have kind of lagged behind, and we need to put things in perspective. And we will see the new world is intelligent. People are smart. Even in the Islamic world, people are questioning the tenets of Islam. They don't
Right.
speak out because they don't want to lose their head. But the thing is, the agnostic movement is increasing in the Islamic world. So
Yeah.
world is on the verge of basically questioning all these modern religions, and Hinduism is the only religion with answers to all the questions, and it can
Right.
coexist with science. See, some of these religions are questioning science, they deny science, and we coexist with science, including quantum mechanics. So we need to basically have a clear message, and as far as the practicable parts of the religion are concerned, make them simple and accessible, and we will take over the world. It's just a matter of time, not now, but in the coming decades, starting from
Right.
early 2030s. We are
Yeah.
poised for really flourishing.
Thank you. Thank you, PVRG. It is such a pleasure to speak with you and your wisdom and your analysis. And it is really a privilege to the viewers. My appeal to you is there is a very vital message there. We have to simplify our process. We have to take our message forward. That narrative we have to create. So learn from, Pran Pratishtha of Sri Ram in Ayodhya. Ram always carried Dhanushwan with him. That's what we
Mhm.
have to learn. That we have to stand up, protect, and defend what is ours. If we do not, then the calamity falls. So, with these words, I want to request all the viewers to like, subscribe, support our channel Jaipur Dialogue and Jaipur Dialogue USA, and keep the dialogue going. As I always end my shows by saying, Satyame Vijayate, truth must triumph, and for truth to triumph, we have to stand up for it. If we don't, truth will not triumph on its own. So, Modi ji has struck a hat trick, as it seems, with all the exit polls, and I hope it is true on October in a few days' time, June 4th, and that's a good news. The rise, the return of the king is happened. Thank you, Narasimha ji, and thank you very much.
Thank you.